All right, what's up, everybody? Today we are looking at the daily coding challenge for August 11th, 2025 on FreeCodeCamp.org. If you go to FreeCodeCamp.org, go to the curriculum page, look at this section right here, try coding challenge of the day, go to the archive, and you get this calendar view. Go all the way back to August 11th, and that's the challenge we're looking at here. It's called vowel balance. Given a string, determine whether the number of vowels in the first half of the string is equal to the number of vowels in the second half. So it sounds like we'll be splitting this string in half and checking out one side and then checking out the other. We have three constraints. The string can contain any characters, as we see down here in one of these test cases. We have numbers, we have symbols, we have uppercase and lowercase vowels. The letters A, E, I, O, and U in either uppercase or lowercase are considered vowels. If there's an odd number of characters in the string, ignore the center character. So if we look at like race car here, this has an odd number of characters, so we would ignore the E and just look at the A on one side, the A on the other. String is a good example of an even number of characters. So this would return false because we have an I, we have a vowel on the second half, and we don't have a vowel on the first half. And it looks like when we have maybe one character or we just have like white space, it should just return true. So how can we begin? Well, the main challenge I see right off the bat is that we have to kind of consider odd number of characters in the string. And that'll alter how we look at the string. So one trick that we can use to see if the string is odd is just to take the length of the string, apply the modulus operator, and 2 equal to 0. That means that it's even. The modulus operator basically divides these two numbers, so the length divided by 2, and then what we get from that operation is the remainder of that division. So if the length of the string is able to be divided by 2 evenly, that means we have 0 remaining. That means it's even. So if it's odd, that means string length modulus 2 is not equal to 0. So we could express it this way with an if statement, or what would end up being probably the most useful is to put it into a variable. So cool. This will be true if the string is odd and false if the string is not odd or even. Next, if we're splitting the string in half, that means we're taking the substring. Substring is a method on the string primitive data type that we could use. Substring takes 2 arguments in its call. We'll use the first argument as the place that the substring starts. We want to start at the beginning of the string, and we want to go until the length of the string divided by 2, the halfway point. And I'll call this first. So this is the first segment of the string, the first half. So how would we get the second half? Same sort of thing. We have the string, we get the substring, and we start this at s length, you would think divide by 2, right? And we'll keep like that. We'll keep it like that for a second, because we'll just put in our second argument. We go until the end of the string, the length of the string. And let's console that out just to see what it is that we have here. So first, second, and yeah, we'll just do that. Okay, cool. So you see over here in our test output, we have the first is RAC, And then the second, we are picking up that middle character that we might not necessarily want. Given these results, we know that we need to probably alter the way that we're taking the second half substring. And specifically, we need to alter where we are starting that second half substring. And that means we can probably add 1 to this part of it. So I'll break these arguments to their own lines. Let's do that. So it's like really easy and clear to see. This is our first argument. This is where the substring, the second half substring is starting. We have that half, and we need to add a 1 conditionally when the string is odd. We can use a feature of JavaScript, or I don't know if you want to call it a feature. We can use the fact that JavaScript turns true and false into 1 and 0. So if is odd is true, that means when I call number and pass in that variable, that Boolean variable, to convert it to a number, this is going to be resolving to 1 when it's true. If it's not true, and let's say we have an even number of characters in our string, like the word string is, this is odd variable will resolve to a 0, and we won't add anything here. And I think this will probably do it, but a good way to just sanity check is I can set the S variable to just be string. We know it's even number of characters. And just so it doesn't complete the challenge if I got this right. So we set this to string. It's an even number of characters. On the second half, we have 1 vowel, and is odd will be false. We'll take the first half. We'll take the second half, but we won't make any modifications. It'll go from the halfway mark to the end of the string, and let's see what we get. Yeah, there you go. So first str, second ing. Cool. Well, and here, wait. Let's check it with race car. That's the troublemaker here. And there you go. We got RAC and CAR. So that kind of confirms that this bit of logic that we're adding here to the substring call is working the way I'm describing. So we got that done, and now here I'll comment these out for now, just in case we need to go back to them. But what's the next thing we have to do here? We have to check each side to see if they have vowels, right? What you could do is, go through standing up an array of vowels, A, and then we can iterate through the first half and see if see how many vowels are there, and then iterate through the second half and see how many vowels are there, and then compare to see if those two counts are equivalent. But I think there may be kind of a better way. I don't know if it's better technically. I think some people are really against doing what I'm about to do. But we can use regular expression. I'm going to call this vowel regex. And here I'm going to add a capture group for AEIOU, global inclusive. Let's side tangent, regular expression. What does I mean? Case insensitive. Okay, so I that had nothing to do with inclusive or not. This is case insensitive flag on regex. I don't use regex that often, to be honest with you. So sanity check, I just want to make sure that's what that, okay. So case insensitive, global check across the whole string to see if it contains any of these letters. And now if we take, we'll say vowels, right? First, and I want to call match on this string and pass it this regex. That's going to get us an array of the vowels that are contained here. And it contains one vowel, and it is an A. Could try one of these other that have multiple vowels instead. S equals lorem ipsum up here at the top. I'll run that again, and now we have an O and an E in this first half of the string. If we did the same thing on the second half string, I'll call this vowels 1, vowels 2. And I'll copy it and output both of them. We should have an O and an E in the first vowels 1 output, and an I and a U in the second vowels output. And there you go. O and E, I and U. So how can we use this? Because we're mostly concentrated on how many vowels there are and just comparing those two things. I kind of wonder, what is the output when I don't have any vowels? So let's have a string with like Q, B, C, R, G, space, M, Z, X, P. So when there are no vowels involved, we get a null value going into this vowel. So it's either an array of vowels or null. Given that, I think we could use the optional chaining operator here. So I'm gonna remove those consoles, remove this. We'll concentrate on line 14 here. And optional chaining operator basically says, as I'm moving from left to right, I have the first half string I call match with the regex, and this resolves to something. And if I were to, for instance, access the length property here, this resolves to an array if there are vowels, and I can access the length property of that array. But if there are no vowels, it's going to resolve to null, and I can't access the length property of null. So using the optional chaining operator before trying to access that length property, this tells the JavaScript engine to look at the first half string, call the match method, and pass it the regex. This resolves to a null, and this question mark looks at that value. Is it null? Okay, just return null. If that is null, then it won't continue on. It'll just return null, and we would have a null value go into wherever we're bringing it, like this vowels 1 variable. But if it is an array, then it'll say, cool, okay, access the length property, and we will have first vowels. Let's say the first vowels variable, and actually vowel count 1. How about that? And then we can have vowel count 2 and basically do nearly exactly the same thing, but just on our second half variable, right? So we have vowels 1 and vowels 2, which are integers or null. And really beyond this, if this resolved to null, we can use the null coalescent operator. And what this does, so if we have vowels in the array that comes out of the match, and we get the length of it, and it hits this null coalescence operator, it's going to just use that length property value. Cool. Put that into our vowel count 1. But if all that ended up being null, then it's like, okay, cool, here's the backup plan on the right-hand side. My backup plan, if all of that on the left is null, is just to use 0. And this will allow us to basically guarantee that we'll have an integer, some kind of value in these two variables that we can compare. Because ultimately, this all comes down to vowel count 1 being equal to vowel count 2. And I think that pretty much does it, you know? We could condense this code so that it's prettier to look at. And one way we could do that is just, I guess, like, take this and put it here. And take this and put it here. And you're going to want parentheses around these two sides of this equality check in the return statement. And we can put this all on one line. And I believe that's pretty much it. We do have this one situation here where we have one character. And I don't know how that's going to shape out. I have a solution in mind for that, but I kind of want to see what it does. Okay, we pass. I figured we might need something for a situation with one character. I kind of want to see, like, just out of my own curiosity, for my own learning's sake, if up here I just cancelled out, let's see, 1 divided by 2. Okay, it's 0.5. So how does substring make sense of that? I'm not sure. It's a string of length 0. That's funny. So we have a string of length 0, and then I'm guessing this would be a string of length 0 too, right? The second, yeah, we have two strings of length 0 that we're getting out of this when we just have one character. What if we do like an R instead or something? Yeah, we end up with 0, 0, and then if we're trying to call match with that regex on 0, it's going to come back with null, and so we end up with 0, and 0 is equal to 0 in this final vowel count check in our return statement. So that makes sense. That's why that's doing that. There you go. So that is the first challenge of these daily coding challenges on FreeCodeCamp.org. That's my approach to solving it. I'm relying on using regex, which I mentioned earlier. Some people don't like regex because technically when you use regex, you should be aware that what is going on is that I believe, I'll have to look this up later. I may be talking out of my butt right now. But when you use regex, the JavaScript engine has to spin up like the regex executable and run that on whatever you're doing. And if it's a really complicated regex, you're trying to find a really complicated pattern in a string, then that can definitely eat into your processing performance, especially if you're like on a web server or on some kind of like high volume application where you're processing a lot of transactions, you're taking a lot of web requests, you're doing a lot of work. If you do a lot of regex calls in with a lot of work, that's going to eat into the performance of your system. So you don't always want to use regex. You can definitely hand code this to check for the count of vowels in this. And we'll end the video here. Officially, the video's over. Thanks for watching. Subscribe if you like this kind of content. Like the video. It helps this brand new channel of mine. I appreciate your time and attention, and I appreciate you as a person. I wish you all the best of luck in your coding journey. Boom. Video's over. Now here's the after hours stuff, because I'm kind of interested in playing with this. Let's just totally destroy this. Boom, boom, done. You go back to returning potato. How do we count the number of vowels in either of these strings? Like I said earlier, we'll probably need an array of characters or just a string, A, E, I, O, U. And we can iterate through at I equals 0, I is less than first dot length, I plus plus. And for every one of these characters, if first at index I includes, or actually I could say, yeah, if it includes, maybe it should be an array, just so I don't start tripping up over my thought patterns here if what I'm doing doesn't like work. We've got an array of vowels. We can say if first sum has sum of vowel. Oh no, it'd be, no, I'll call this vowels. If vowels sum that, then we know first has some vowels, but we have to count how many. Let's first check to see if my thinking is right so far. And we'll set s to lorem ipsum, and let's see what that does. Didn't find a vowel. Includes sum. What is sum? I think sum takes a callback. There you go. Found a vowel, found a vowel. So we can iterate through and just keep a running count. So iterate vowel count in place every time that one of the values in the first string is included in the vowels array. And whoa, caps lock, console log vowel count. We got 2 vowels there. About if we add a few more, let's see, O, I, U, and this should be like 2 uppercase, 2 lowercase, right? So we're comparing them. Okay, so now we have 5 in the first half. So it seems like that's doing what we want. And we need to do that for each of these strings. We could do this in one loop. Since it's the same length, since we're taking half of the original string, we can kind of guarantee that both of these strings are going to be the same length. So it doesn't matter if we iterate on first dot length or second dot length, it's still going to go the same amount. And so really all I need to do is do like VC1, vowel count 1, and vowel count 2, and iterate VC1 if one is found, if a vowel is found in the first half, and just do the same thing if a vowel is found in the second half. Only I'll iterate VC2. And then we will have VC1 and VC2. So we have 5 in one half and 2 in the other half. But one is, one is uppercase, one is lowercase. So what is half of this string? We have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14 characters. That is an even amount. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. So that's one half and the other. And yeah, we do have 2 vowels in the second half. And then we have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 vowels in the first half. So that seems to me like it should work. We do have to consider the one character situation, and that should be fine because we have VC1 and VC2 starting off as 0. And if we end up with a 0 length string in both of these it just won't run this for loop. We won't increment either of them, and we'll end up comparing 0 and 0 when we do VC1 and VC2 as the return. So there you go. Now, I am interested to know if anyone watching this can tell me more or comment below about regex, because my first solution, we were using regex to do this last part. And this really wasn't that hard to just go through, meet the requirements, and compare. I'm interested to know what you could tell me about the downsides and upsides of using regex. All right, that's our solution. Thank you very much for watching and sticking around for the after hours dive into hand coding the vowel count portion of the solution. And I hope you have a wonderful day. I'm going to be recording these daily code challenges, working through them, and I guess just starting. This was the first one, August 11th. I just did one for this September 12th challenge. But I think from now on, I'll just be starting here, August 11th. Next, I'll do August 12th, 13th, 14th, and so on. I'm going to try to catch up to the current day and then just upload videos with the solutions a couple days after they are released on the site. So if that sounds good to you, go ahead and subscribe. Like I said, like the video. It'll help my channel a lot. Leave a comment below for if I can improve these videos in any way. And yeah, and as a added bonus, when you're on FreeCodeCamp right here, if you hit Control S, it'll save your code to your browser's local storage. So if you don't complete a challenge in one sitting and you need to, come back to it and think about it if it's too hard, just hit Control S on your keyboard and it'll save your progress to your local browser, and you can come back to this page whenever and complete the challenge. I thought that was a really cool feature. Yeah, that's it. Thank you for your time and attention, and I'll talk at you later.